Hello, everyone. My name is Sonia Serrano, and I'm with the Multilingual Department. I'm a principal consultant, and today we're going to be sharing on the English Learner Basics, State Rules and Regulations. To start off our presentation, today our presentation is done in two parts. The first part I'll be sharing with you. And our agenda for the first part is going to include identification, home language survey, WIDA model and WIDA screener, the qualification of services, and the notification letters that are sent to the parents. And is also going to include the programming, the TBE full-time, TBE part-time, and TPI. The second part of this presentation will be done by Tamara Koha. To start off, our state rules and regulations could be found in the Illinois School Code, Article 14C, Transitional Bilingual Education, and in the Illinois Administrative Code, Title 23, Part 22A, Transitional Bilingual Education. And there's other rules and regulations that could be found also in this, which is the Part 1 and Part 25, which is Educator Licensure. Okay, we're going to start with the identification of the student. Okay, to start off, we have 3 steps that must be taken in the identification of the students. The first part is the home language survey. The second part is the English language proficiency test, which lets us know the proficiency or the fluency in the student's home language, or in English actually. And the third part is the program placement, and once the students are placed, there's parent notifications that are sent out. Okay, the home language survey must include 2 questions. The 2 questions that are needed in the home language survey is, does anyone in the home speaks another language? If so, what language? And does the student speak another language? If so, what language? If the parents check yes to any of these questions, then the district must administer a screener assessment English language proficiency within 30 days of the enrollment of the student, or 14 days if the student enrolls mid-school year. The home language survey must be translated in the student's home language. We do have 40 languages. The home language survey is available on our website in 40 languages, so the districts could print out the home language surveys and include it in the student's folder. Now, the home language survey can also be done electronically, but if it's done electronically, the 2 questions must be on it, and the parent's signature must be on the page where the 2 questions are listed. Cannot be at the end of the registration packet if it's included in the registration packet. Okay, the second part of the identification would be the screener. So once the parents do check yes to any of the questions, then the students are screened. The screeners are available by grade or age range. So let's say the students are in pre-kindergarten, ages 3 to 5. We do have multiple vendors and procedures for this screener. We don't have one actually, that's available, but we do have the pre-IPT that is available that districts could use. And the cut score for this age group is that the student is fluent in English. So this slide determines whether the cut scores for the student, and it will let us know whether the students qualify for the program. So the next grade range will be for first semester of kindergarten, and that's given the WIDA model. And we do do the listening and the speaking for this screener, and the cut score for this screener is 5.0 oral language proficiency. The next one is second semester of kindergarten, first semester of first grade is also the WIDA model, but all 4 domains are given for this screener, which is reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And the overall cut score for this is 5.0 composite literacy and 4.2 in reading and writing. And the last one grade range would be second semester of first grade through the 12th grade. And it's also given the new WIDA screener. And this test is available online or paper. And the overall cut score for this will be 5.0. We also have a link on that page that will take you to the screeners for more information. Okay, the next step would be the parent notifications, which means that once the students are screened and we know the test scores of the students and we know the levels that the students will be, then the parents will receive a notification letter letting them know what the scores and where the placement is for the students. The letters must be translated in the student's home language also. The letters are sent 30 days after the beginning of the school year or 14 days after enrollment during the school year. Also in the letter must have a statement letting the parents know that they have the right to withdraw the student for the whole program, or that they have a choice to choose whatever other services that are available in the district. Also, our letters are in 40 other languages on our website, and we are in the process of translating and updating actually the letters that are on our website. And included in those letters will be the exit letters that we never had before, and there's also the pre-kindergarten example letters that will be available on our website. And here's also the link. We have the link here that will take you to the website. Okay, so now we're going to continue with the programs for English learners, the different program models. Okay, there's 2 program models, and these program models will determine on the number of students of the same language in the attendance center. This is actually attendance center, not district-wide. So let's say the attendance center does have 20 or more students of the same language, then the attendance center will provide a TBE program. If the attendance center has 19 or fewer students of the same language, then that attendance center will have a TPI program. Now, let's say the attendance center has pre-K through 8th grade. The pre-K students are counted separately. So if the pre-kindergarten class has 20 or more students of the same language, then the attendance center will need to have a preschool TBE program. And if the attendance center just has fewer than 19 students of the same language from kindergarten to 8th grade, then that attendance center will have a TBE program for preschool and a TPI for kindergarten through 8th grade. The TBE placement has 2 sections, which is a full-time TBE or a part-time TBE. If the student score on the screener or the access exam and they score below the 3.5, then that student will be placed into the full-time program for TBE. If the student scores on above the 3.5 in the screener or the access scores, then that student will be placed into the part-time TBE program. So we have the transitional program of instruction, which I mentioned before, which is 19 or fewer students of the same language, then that student will be placed in the TBE program. We also have the parent refusals. Now, the parent refusals, let's say the parents do decide to refuse partial of instruction and they don't want native language instruction, then that student will be placed. That student will not receive any services, actually. That student will need to take the annual exam, access exam that's required. So the student will still be in the program, but will not receive any services. Also, the parent refusals must be in written form. The parents must submit a written form stating that they do not want the students to be enrolled in the program. With this slide is kind of iffy because actually time distribution or amount of time spent with the ELs is not mandated by the Illinois State Board of Education. The designation for time and services required for the students is the responsibility of the attendance center. The services and the amount of time per week or per day should be based on the student's needs and test scores, whether the student is in full-time, part-time, or TBE placement. For example, let's say the student that is scoring 3.5 or above will not receive as much time and services as a student that would score a 2.5. The services for both TBE full-time or part-time may be delivered in a self-contained classroom, push-in, pull-out, or a co-teaching model, and also or other resources available for that student. Also, these services also pertain to the TPI placement. Okay, so now the components for the full-time placement requires that the student receive native language instruction in the core subjects. The core subjects being language arts, math, science, and social studies. Also must include ESL instruction and instruction in the history and culture of the country or territory of the student. The part-time TBE component actually requires the same amount of time as the full-time components. The only thing with the part-time placement is that the student's daily instruction in the student's home language is as needed. So let's say, because normally the students are placed into the part-time when they are almost close to exiting, so that's why they will need the native language instruction. Also, ESL instruction is part of the TBE part-time instruction or component. Okay, this slide, this tool actually is a good tool to determine whether the students are placed into a part-time TBE. It's a good tool because you could document why the student is placed into the part-time TBE program. There are other characteristics that may be used to place the students in the part-time TBE. Let's say the student does have an IEP, or the parents do not want native language instruction provided for the student, or let's say the student does not read or write in their native language, then that student may be placed into the part-time TBE, even though that student score was 2.5. So this tool is very good and is available on our website, and you could use it to document the placement for the part-time TBE placement for the student. Okay, for the components for the transitional program of instruction, which is TPI, because individuals, students or children that are placed in the TPI are diverse. The instruction that must be provided for the TPI program is ESL instruction and native language support or instruction to the extent necessary. The support could be done by having a teacher's aide that speaks the language of the student, or you might also provide support by using technology to like a translation tool for those students that are not English proficient. Okay, so these are required components for the whole program, for the bilingual program, TBE and TPI. The district must have curriculum aligned to standards, which includes the English language development standards and the Spanish language art standards. And the Spanish language art standards only pertains to attendance centers that offer the TBE in Spanish only. The 90% student-teacher ratio only pertains to self-contained classrooms where the classroom has all EL students in it. It does not pertain to pull-out, push-in, or even in a dual language. It doesn't pertain to that. Only pertains to one self-contained classroom with all EL students. Also, if the class has a multi-grade class, there must be differentiation instruction within that class. Also, the ELs must be included in subjects with their English-speaking peers, in subjects such as that language is not essential to understand, like music or art, or even PE. They don't need to have a language essential to understand. Also, the facility, the comparable facilities must be compared to those that the gen ed students have. So let's say there's a big classroom for the gen ed students, that should also be available for the EL students. EL students should not be placed in a small little closet when the gen ed students have a really big classroom or facility. Also, course credits must be given to EL students. Let's say they're taking the ESL classes, and this is strictly like mostly for middle grade or high school when they're taking English classes. The gen ed students have English classes, but the ELs are taking ESL classes. Those must be available credits for the EL students. Also, the EL students should have access to extracurriculum activity. Any activities that are available for your gen ed classes or your gen ed students should be also available for the EL students. Okay, so that concludes my presentation for the first part. Now I hand it over to Tamara, and she'll be speaking on the second part of this presentation. If you have any questions regarding any of these slides, my contact information is at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tamara Kohout, and I work alongside Sonia in the Multilingual Department for the Illinois State Board of Education. In part 2 of this presentation, we will be reviewing staffing, annual assessment of access, exiting EL services, monitoring for 2 years, the Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee for Parents, records keeping in EL folders, additional resources you can use pertaining to the Multilingual Department, and contact information for Sonia and I, and also for other principal consultants. We're going to start by discussing staffing for EL programming. As you know, some of our endorsements have changed through the years in EL bilingual programming. We now have work with the licensure department to make sure that our students are receiving certified ESL or bilingual teachers working with them. So there's different teaching endorsements that you can first apply with, and then you can get your ESL or bilingual endorsement on top of that. If you look at the left-hand column, you will see that there are a number of teaching endorsements that many students come out of their bachelor's or master's degree with, pertaining to early childhood, elementary, middle school. Now, instead of high school, they call it senior high, special education, other Pell teaching endorsements like music, art, PE, and then, of course, early childhood. If you look at administrative endorsements, we now have different wording that's pertaining to them, like the chief school business official, director of special education, principal, superintendent, or the newest one is teacher leader. Pertaining to our program, we have transitional bilingual educator, which is we call an ELS TBE, which is up to 5 years, good for use in any native language component. You just have to take a specialized test through the Illinois certification testing system that we can give you connections to if you like further information regarding how to sign up for the exam. We also have the Visiting International Teacher Program. Currently, we have over 110 VIT teachers who've come in from Spain and Mexico. We're also working with Morocco to obtain some Arabic-speaking teachers, and we're working with Poland to obtain some Polish-speaking teachers so that we can help fulfill the needs of your bilingual programs. We also have a number of EL paraprofessionals who work within our program, and many of them do speak other languages. So we, of course, would love for them to obtain a transitional bilingual educator license on top of their paraprofessional license so they can work within our EL program. So who can teach in our TBE and TPI programs in Illinois? If the font is small, we refer to a number of documents on our website. I will correspond with the information in front of you, however. So a teacher with bilingual K-through-K endorsements is certified to teach in a bilingual classroom. So for example, if you are a high school math teacher and you happen to speak Spanish, you can obtain the bilingual pre-K through 12 endorsement to teach in a bilingual math program. So maybe that's in Spanish, Polish, Arabic. You can take the test for your bilingual endorsement and add the bilingual endorsement onto your math endorsement. Another example, an ELS TBE, like I said before, is good for 5 years. That means that you may not have a typical Pell professional educator license, but if you happen to speak a native language like Spanish, Polish, or Arabic, we encourage you to enter our program through the ELS TBE, where you can have a 5-year license to teach in Illinois schools. This is our former Type 29 program. This program is to be used in a bilingual or ESL departmentalized setting in grades 6 through 12. So for example, if you are teaching a 7th grade ELA class, the certified classroom teacher would have the ELA endorsement, but the bilingual or ESL teacher would have the ELS TBE to push in to that classroom to provide the ESL or bilingual minutes regarded for those students. So a lot of schools are now obtaining teachers with the bilingual or ESL endorsement to push in to their courses so they can dually service their students at the same time. If you have an ESL pre-K through 12 endorsement, whether you're a classroom teacher or a content area teacher, we encourage you to use SIOP strategies and vocabulary, graphic organizers, modified text to provide EL services to your students. We do ask that that is part of your schedule and you actually block out time of your schedule to make sure that you're working with your ESL students, but you may serve as that ESL teacher. So even if you are the classroom teacher for 4th grade, if you have your ESL endorsement, you can allot a specific time of your day set in your schedule to work as an ESL instructor for those students, and of course provide those modifications to all your instruction throughout the day. If you are an ESL pre-K endorsed K through 12 teacher, you can also teach in a self-contained or push-in, pull-out setting in the grade levels you are assigned to. So if you have a K9 license, you can work with K9 ESL in that setting. If you have a 6 through 12 license, then you would have the ESL endorsement for the grade levels you are assigned to. It is very important to note that, especially in the content areas in middle school and high school, that you must have the English language arts, math, science, and social studies endorsement with the bilingual or ESL endorsement. So a lot of schools are contacting us, asking us, how can we obtain teachers who have these types of credentials? So first, we encourage them to have the content area endorsement and then to get the bilingual ESL endorsement on top of it. Program director requirements. If there are 200 or more English learners in the district, we are required to have a program director with a bilingual endorsement, ENL endorsement, or 18 semester hours of coursework, which many people are now obtaining through universities or the Illinois Resource Center. However, if you only have a TPI program in the district, you don't have a certified bilingual program, we ask for the ESL at least endorsement, ENL endorsement, or 18 semester hours of credit. For the smaller school districts that have fewer than 200 ELs, we ask for the ESL bilingual endorsement, ENL endorsement, or 18 semester hours of coursework toward the bilingual endorsement. We also ask for 8 hours of professional development per year, which many people are obtaining through the WIDA program, the Illinois Resource Center, Literacy Squared, and other ways of obtaining professional development. And we also offer a number of professional development seminars that we can refer districts to if they have any questions. Let's talk about the annual assessment of the access. As Sonia referred to earlier, we have certain cut scores that we look for when students qualify for EL services. We know that our students are required to have a 4.8 on the access in order to exit the ESL or bilingual program. If your students do not have a 4.8 in the overall composite score, they still must receive EL programming and services. The access test is conducted annually. As you know, this past school year, we have moved it into the spring or the fall session, and now we are moving toward the next session this upcoming January. This entails listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills for all English learners in kindergarten through grade 12. The assessment shall be administered during a specific testing window, and you need to have continual EL services before and after the access test. Even if you know that your students perform well, they still continue EL services while they qualify. So please ensure that you have EL services provided before, during, and after access testing windows. Each student who scores a 4.8 or above is identified as proficient. They shall no longer be identified as an English learner. However, if you have a student who has refusal status and you have a parent letter that refuses EL services, they still must take the access test every year. So please create a letter to your parents to inform them that their child will be taking the access test yearly. Many districts have a saved letter that they send out in December informing their parents about the upcoming access test to make sure that their children know that they will participate in the assessment until he or she achieves a proficient score. To exit EL services, we are looking for a 4.8 on the access. All educators, office staff, administrators, and parental guardians must be notified. The exit letter will be sent home as well as placed in the student's EL file, which is located inside the CUME folder in the front office. And the Student Information System, or SIS, will be updated by the school, which uploads to ISB, and we will make sure that the child is stated as exited by the last day of the final day of the school year. So for example, if your last day of school is June 8th, 2022, that would be the last day to exit your student on SIS regarding EL services. Reclassification is a new term for monitoring. We know that years ago they used to ask for 4 years of monitoring. Illinois requires 2 years of formal monitoring. We ask for a differentiation of monitor forms. Some schools have a form that they fill out. Some schools have data or spreadsheets that they fill out. They have this information included. Standardized and benchmark test scores, grades for each quarter, classroom performance, teacher recommendations or comments in ELA, math, science, or social studies. The whole goal is to ensure that language services are no longer needed. However, if students still require services, they can still take part in small group lessons and activities with the ESL certified classroom teachers. So let's say you have a student in 5th grade who exited the previous year. However, they've only been in the country 2 years. We always refer to the MTSS model to make sure that interventions can be in place for the student. And if you feel as though ESL services are still needed, maybe you don't have them classified as an EL student in paperwork form and on SIS anymore, but the school still can provide those services as well as provide those MTSS interventions. On to the Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee, or BPAC. This is in regard to TBE programs only. So for students in programs that have 20 or more in an attendance center, so let's say you have 20 or more Spanish speakers at Irving Elementary School, they would be required to have a Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee. This can pertain to the individual school or to the entire district. Establishing programs for the BPAC. We ask the Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee will meet 4 times per year, either online or in person. Please keep track of your minutes and the topics of discussion. Retrieve training from the district to make informed decisions, meaning that educate your parents about your EL programming and give them information about what your EL program is about. Participate in planning, operation, and evaluation of your programs so that the parents are informed of the teachers in your program, the curriculum, the types of interventions that the students are part of, any type of before or after school activities, parent-teacher conferences, everything pertaining to your bilingual program. Keep track of all your paperwork and your bilingual program plan that's submitted to ISB. So for example, if you have a bilingual service plan, we ask that to be shared with your BPAC. And if you have Title III grants, we ask that that is also shared. The committee will operate autonomously. That means that it is not the educational leaders or the teachers who are in charge of running the BPAC. It should run with the parents. Now, of course, we encourage administrators and teachers to attend the meetings. However, the parents should be the leaders of the meetings. The parents should be having the discussions. The parents should be coming up with the ideas. We always encourage them to have election of officers with an establishment of internal rules and procedures. Therefore, a number of districts have now come up with a Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee manual that they disperse to all their members, and everybody agrees to those policies before they begin for the school year. Here is what we ask them to review: the EL Bilingual Service Plan, the EL Evidence-Based Funding Expenditure Report, or EBF report, and how they spend EL funds in the EBF Spending Plan. As a tiny reminder, coming up, we have the EBF Spending Plan that is due on September 30th. EL records. Student participation and records should include, so you may want to create a cover sheet for your EL folders. Every year, program entry and exit information. You only have exit letters for 1 year, just the year of exit, but you will have entry letters for every year in English and the native language that's spoken at home. You'll also have the annual access scores or the entrance scores from the WIDA. Results from the prescribed screening, that would be from your WIDA, whether it's the WIDA model for kindergarten or from the WIDA screener. Other student information, so we would like to have the student's language that they speak at home, the grade level that they're part of, and any attendance records that you have. The rationale for a student's placement into a part-time program that Sonia referred to earlier. If you're using that part-time TBE form, please make sure that it's in there each year. Documentation of conferences. So if you meet with parents or have written communication regarding the Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee or regarding EL services, please put the documentation inside the folder. And parents and legal guardians should enroll in programs with their student records. So for example, if they transfer school districts, all those records should still go to the next school district. So before re-enrolling them and doing a new screener, when a child enters your school district, please call the former school district or call our SIS department so that you can find out if there are previous records that pertain to the EL student so that we do not recreate a whole new system of entry dates. We want to make sure that the student's SID number stays with them no matter which school they enroll in, which will tell you whether or not they have EL across any number of schools they may attend. Report cards for EL students may be issued the same way to all other students in the district. However, some school districts do have a separate EL progress report or report card they include next to or alongside the report card. The goal is to inform the progress of the program and in the general program of instruction. Even if your child or EL student has met exit criteria, please inform the students and the parents when you send out those report cards so that they now know that their child will no longer be enrolled in the EL services for the following school year. There is something called a report card waiver that we ask all schools to submit, and most people have it turned in by the parents during registration. On this letter, it would say something like, I, Maria, would not like my child to maintain or obtain records or documents in Spanish. I can obtain all my records in English. But some parents may say the opposite. They would say, I prefer for all the records and documentation to come home in my native or home language. So this report card waiver is very important. Everybody in the front office and the teachers who have the students should know about this report card waiver so that they know the language choice that the parents would like sent home to them, whether it's in English or the native language. Additional resources for the EL program. We have something called the English Learner Toolkit, where you can look under all 10 of these components to find out more. I'm going to give you a link to that in our next slide. But basically, if you have questions regarding EL programming, how to service your students, what type of teachers you need, please refer to this English Learner Toolkit. We have a multilingual department website that's been updated this summer, so we always encourage school districts to go on our website because, as Sonia referred to earlier, we have new forms that are being translated and modified, and we also have a number of changes to our website all the time. We also have our 23 Illinois Administrative Code 228, which is what we live by and look up daily for schools. If you have questions from parents, always refer them to 228 and talk with 228 regarding EL programming for your school district when you have administrative meetings. Trevor and Barry are also working with WIDA daily to make sure that access scores are updated. And if you have any questions with signing up your students for the upcoming access, you can refer to WIDA as well. The next slide has the English Learners Toolkit that I referred to earlier by OELA. We also have Equitable Access to Educational Excellence, and this document is really strongly referred to by our department a lot as well. We have a new matrix, as Sonia spoke about earlier, that's just been modified in the last few weeks. So if you're hiring ESL or bilingual teachers, or you have classroom teachers working on their ESL or bilingual certification, please refer to this matrix. For ESL bilingual licensure, that information has also been updated. So click on the special grades pre-K through grade 12 if you're looking for a long-term ESL or bilingual license. If you're looking for a temporary license because you cannot seem to find ESL or bilingual teachers, however, you do have teachers who do speak Spanish, Polish, and Arabic just naturally in your district, we encourage them to get the ELS TBE license for 5 years. Or if you're bringing in teachers from another country, as in Spain or Mexico, we encourage them to look up the VIT. If you have questions about EL program planning, please refer to our English Learners website. Sonia and I would love for you to contact us for further information. Here are our emails below. You can also call us. We are here for you when you need us. Please pick up the phone when you need help. We're happy to assist you. Thank you for participating, and we really appreciate all your support.